We're so glad you've taken a break from watching the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer in order to watch a video about the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. If you're not a comic book fan, you may have been wondering just who Jake Gyllenhaal is supposed to be playing, and what is it that has comic book fans so excited. Mysterio is one of the best villains in Spider-Man's rogue gallery, and we'll let you know why that is. There are some Marvel villains who are simply amazing, regardless of who they're going up against. We loved watching Thanos go up against the various members of the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers during Infinity War, for example. But you have to admit the scenes involving Gamora, Nebula, and Star-Lord were particularly poignant because of their shared history and connection with one another. Then we have Mysterio, who's being played by actor Jake Gyllenhaal in the new Spider-Man Far From Home movie. While our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has no shortage of fans, he also has his fair share of enemies, and Mysterio is one of his biggest adversaries. His real name is Quentin Beck, and he's one of the many Marvel characters who doesn't have any special powers of his own. He's a special effects artist who uses a variety of impressive gadgets and gizmos in order to perpetuate crimes and face off against our favorite web-slinger. When Mysterio was first getting involved in the supervillain game, he decided to make a name for himself by taking out this new superhero everyone was talking about called Spider-Man. Mysterio was learning how to be a villain, while Spider-Man was learning how to be a superhero. And it's safe to say they both learned a lot about one another in the process. Sure, he uses gadgets instead of innate superhuman abilities, but Mysterio is effective because he knows Spider-Man so well, and is able to counter his strengths with his own creations. To outsiders, it seems as though Mysterio is truly in possession of some incredible superpowers, despite the fact that he's a mere mortal like the rest of us. Needless to say, Mysterio's a bad guy who wants to take down Spider-Man in the comic books. Yet, in the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, we see Mysterio flying around, seemingly saving the day from these ferocious monsters who are terrorizing Europe. What gives? We know Marvel movies often drastically diverge from the comic books, but we're guessing Mysterio isn't going to go from bad guy to hero. In fact, it seems likely he's simply pretending to be a hero for some insidious reason. And he's probably responsible, at least in part, for those terrifying elemental creatures. We've seen Mysterio team up with other villains before, including Norman Osborn, Dr. Octopus, and the Sinister Six. Back when we had to rely on pictures from the set of Spider-Man Far From Home to make predictions for the movie, many fans believed the villain Hydro Man would be making an appearance due to some water-based special effects. Sure, there's a chance the water monster may be an illusion-enhanced Hydro Man, but we think it's far more likely to simply be a nod to the character. In fact, take a look at the boat that appears behind Ned, which reads ASM 212. We believe it's a reference to Amazing Spider-Man 212, which is when we first saw Hydro Man appear in the comics. But the water monster wasn't the only mysterious, non-Mysterio creature we saw pop up during the trailer. There's also that sand creature, which many believe could be a trussed-up version of Sandman. And although we haven't seen him yet on the big screen, that massive molten monster looks pretty familiar to comic book fans. Molten Man is a comic book foe of Spider-Man who can heat his body to such insanely high levels that he incinerates everything he touches. There's another relatively obscure comic book-based explanation for these creatures as well. The elementals, as you can probably guess from the name, are based on the 4 elements. These evildoers have gone up against Spider-Man before, and many wonder if they could be working with Mysterio in Far From Home. There are 4 members of the elementals: Hydron, Magnum, Hellfire, and Zephyr, the rulers of water, earth, fire, and wind respectively. Unlike Mysterio, Hydro Man, and Sandman, the elementals don't have an extensive history in the comic books, or in other forms of media. While some people might look at this as a negative, we think it's actually a good thing. When you bring a well-established character who even non-comic book fans know about to the big screen, there are always a ton of expectations. People have preconceived notions of what these characters should look like and how they should behave, which limits what screenwriters and directors can do with them. But when you have a group like the Elementals, they have just enough backstory and character design to be useful, but nowhere near enough to make them difficult to work with. The fact that Nick Fury is involved means another villain besides Mysterio being in the movie seems even more likely. After all, it seems like Mysterio is busy playing the hero, so perhaps it's actually the elemental threats Fury is tracking down, or it's possible that Quentin Beck has found his way onto Fury's radar. Which isn't a great place to be if you're a villain, and even less so when Spider-Man gets involved. Only time will tell if Far From Home will focus on Spider-Man fighting Mysterio, or if we'll get to see him face off against other villains. How excited are you to see Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home? What are your predictions about the movie? Is there anything we missed about Mysterio from the trailer? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU content. Thanks for watching.